breaking news, the biggest vaccine campaign in NHS history. It's kicked off this morning. We had the first woman in the world to get the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, 90-year-old grandmother Margaret Keenan. There she is with her thumbs up. And in the last hour, the second patient and the first man in the world to get vaccinated, William Shakespeare.
That's actually his name, is William Shakespeare from Warwickshire. I mean, he's got to be related, hasn't he?
And what do you say to those who might be having second thoughts about having this?
Well, I say go for it. Go for it because it's free and it's the best thing that's ever happened at the moment. So please go for it. That's all I say, you know.
I mean, just simple words there, reacting it. You're quite emotional by that.
Well, it's just, it's been such a tough year for so many people, and there's William Shakespeare putting it so simply for everybody. It makes you proud to be British.
The vaccination centre is just opened behind us. I know they're hoping to do over 500 patients today. I'm sure they'll be ramping that up in coming days.
Very, very exciting just to talk to Lynn about the vaccine that she's just taken. She's 81, and really very moving to hear her say that she's doing it for Britain, and that's exactly right, because she's protecting herself, but she's also helping to protect the entire country. And across the whole of the UK this morning, that is happening in Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, in England. People are having the vaccine for the first time, and it will gradually make a huge difference.
We are starting to turn the page on a difficult year. Today is delivery day, and tomorrow vaccination against COVID-19 is beginning across the European Union. The vaccine is made available at the same time to all EU countries. And people will start taking the vaccine in Athens, in Rome, in Helsinki, in Sofia, you just name it.
European nations put Brussels in charge, but whatever the cost advantages of central coordination, it slowed things down, aggravated by production delays, first at Pfizer, then AstraZeneca.
Here in this vaccine centre in Cologne, as in other parts of the European Union, there's only a handful of people.
Well, here in France, the number of patients admitted to hospital intensive care units with COVID-19 has now reached the same levels that we last saw here in November. Do you think France would be in a better position when it comes to the vaccine rollout if you'd done what Britain did and not take part in the EU effort?
I don't think that was an option, and considering the way the government has handled the situation, I'm not sure they would have done better than what the EU has done.
Context for this escalating row is a vaccine rollout in the European Union that has hit significant problems and is beginning to cause some real political fallout.
The Commission are in a very gung-ho state of mind.
Now the companies must deliver. They must honour their obligations.
We want our contract to be fully fulfilled.
And so the fact the vaccine rollout is in so much trouble is causing acute political embarrassment to the Commission.
Today, we have reached a significant milestone in the United Kingdom's national vaccination programme, administering a total of 15 million jabs into the arms of some of the most vulnerable people in the country. If it had listened to the Right Honourable Gentleman, Mr. Speaker, we would still be at the starting blocks because he wanted to stay in the European Medicines Agency, Mr. Speaker, and said so 4 times from that dispatch box.
This is then compounded by the fact that you have a German election this autumn and the CDU are falling in the polls. There is a real chance that we might have Germany's first ever Green Chancellor. Emmanuel Macron is obviously up for re-election next year in France, and Mario Draghi is trying to stabilise his new Italian government. And it is quite telling that Draghi, the former ECB chairman, not someone who you would expect to be taking this position, is in the most hardline camp on this. He is someone who is pushing for, not sending any vaccines at all to the UK.
Pardon d'être un peu cash, mais la gestion européenne des vaccins n'est-elle pas la meilleure publicité pour le Brexit?
They say here in Brussels all the time that the answer to any crisis is always more Europe. What's embarrassing for the European Commission right now is that there's an increasing number of countries who think that the answer to getting the vaccines quickly is actually less Europe or no Europe at all.
I think Kate Bingham, the NHS, under the leadership of the government, have done a good job on the vaccine rollout. And the EU has handled the vaccine rollout, both the procurement issue and also the rollout itself, very badly.
It's actually a huge proof that Brexit was absolutely right.
The biggest member states of the European Union have now joined the list of nations questioning the performance of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine.
The European Union will take any action required to protect its citizens and rights.
Now, that last line is strong there. Basically, what they're saying is if we can't get enough vaccines that are manufactured outside of the EU, like the AstraZeneca one, then we're going to have to hold and control the export of vaccines made inside the bloc, like the Pfizer one. So this could impact the Pfizer vaccine supply into the UK.
A COVID-19 vaccine from Pfizer-BioNTech has been approved by the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency for use in the UK, which paves the way for mass vaccination.
Well, huge news.
This vaccine news is going to make everyone feel better. Jonathan Swain is at the Nightingale Hospital in East London. Well, it sounds like we're the first to approve it, Jonathan.
It does. This has just come through in the last few minutes, Susanna, hasn't it? And it's a fantastic news for us. The UK regulator has now approved use for the Pfizer vaccination. As we speak, we understand, within 8 hours or so, the vaccination, some 40 million doses of it, are now going to be transported to various sites around the country, including here, the NHS Nightingale Hospital. It may not have been used to treat many patients, but from now on, we understand it could be used to vaccinate thousands of people.
Hilary, this is huge.
It is absolutely vast. It's the first approval that we've seen in Europe. So this could be rolled out as early as next week with the military and the NHS and voluntary vaccinators starting to give this jab. This jab is effective, it's safe, it's been well trialled. And to get approval for emergency use this quickly has been a magnificent effort.
And Hilary, to those who say, well, how can it be safe given how fast it's come to the marketplace, what do you say?
Sorry, say that again.
To those who doubt whether it can be safe, what do you say?
Because it's so swift.
Well, it's swift because they have done things at the same time. Usually, what they do is phase 1, 2, 3 trials, and then they look at the data. Then the approval takes a while, and then production. But they've done it all at the same time, which is good. They haven't cut corners in doing this. They've just moved swiftly. And when you think of some of the incompetence that we've seen this year, it is really good to see that some things can be done. If you give it to the researchers and scientists who know what they're doing, and who I trust at least, then I think we should give them a huge pat on the back. And
I'll take it.
The biggest vaccine campaign in NHS history. It's kicked off this morning. We had the first woman in the world to get the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, 90-year-old grandmother Margaret Keenan.
There she is
with her thumbs up. And in the last hour, the second patient and the first man in the world to get vaccinated, William Shakespeare.
That's actually his name, is William Shakespeare from Warwickshire. I mean, he's got to be related, hasn't he?
Jonathan Swain.
Jonathan Swain, he's one of the two gentlemen of Corona, is the first gag off the pipeline.
Twitter sphere.
What an amazing morning for that hospital, University Hospital COVID. The entire world is watching the first Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine happening in a UK hospital, which is brilliant for this country. But what an amazing coincidence that the second person to have it and the first person in the world is William Shakespeare from Warwickshire.
Well, Piers, just a tremendous morning here, and what an occasion. Yeah, Bill Shakespeare from Warwickshire himself, the first person in the UK to get the vaccine. Of course, William Shakespeare, born, lived just 22 or so miles down here, and back in the day, in what, 1500s or so, he was writing about the plague, wasn't he? And now, Bill Shakespeare from Warwickshire himself, some 456 years later or so, is now the first man to have the vaccine. Well, the first lady to administer the vaccine was May Parsons. Let me just introduce this. You were talking about her earlier on, Piers. We found May for you here. She's not on IFB. She did an amazing job for us. Give us a sense of what you're feeling this morning.
Well, it was all positive for me. I think it's a tremendous historical event, and for the pandemic, we know everyone knows what the cost of it and human lives and things. And I think the fact that we were able to offer the first vaccine today to everyone, I think it's a positive historical event, and I'm so proud to be able to kind of contribute to that positive step towards stopping this pandemic.
And how are you feeling at 6:31 when you administered the vaccines? Because it's a big job, because you've got all the cameras here, the world's media watching you. You're an experienced nurse, been here for what, 24 years working?
24 years I've started my nursing career. I've been here in this trust for 17 years, ever since I came to the country. So yes, but I have had a lot of experience in terms of injections and IMs and flu jabs. I've given a couple of hundred a few months ago. So I've had lots of practice in the 20 years career I have. So so it's just going back and stepping back and making sure that I follow the policy, do all the right things for the patient, make sure that she's safe and comfortable, and then and that's it really. I think it's the afterwards that's kind of a bit overwhelming.
Well, thankfully all went well. Margaret's now, she's safe, well, she's hopefully going to go home later on today. And Piers and Susanna were talking earlier on at 7 o'clock, just want to pay tribute really to all the Filipino nurses that work in the NHS.
Yes.
We're so dependent and thankful for your contribution.
So I'm really glad to be telling all the Filipinos in this country and everywhere in the world that we can make a difference, and we do our positive contributions to humanity, as it were, kind of thing. So I think it's a historical event for Filipinos all across the globe, for making sure that we are proud of what we've achieved and what we kind of contribute to everyone, really, and the care that we give. So yeah, I'm very proud to be saying to everyone that I'm a Filipino British today, making history.
Well, May, thanks very much for all your work. I think you need to go and have a cup of tea.
Yes.
You hasn't stopped working all morning. Thank you so much for everything you've done this morning.
Yes, thank
and
you
for your
so
whole
much.
career here. Thank you so much. I'll let you go and have a cup of tea now.
Thank you.
Amazing to speak to May there.
Brilliant.
Such a wonderful young lady. We're so grateful to have her in the
What a
NHS.
moment.
There you go.
What a piece of history. Great question, Swaney.
I know.
That was a big moment. I can tell you, the Philippines, they'll be going crazy in the Philippines about the fact it's a Filipino nurse who has actually administered the first COVID-19 vaccine jab. So a huge moment for the NHS, huge moment for the UK, but also a huge moment for the Philippines. You send so many fantastic people here to work in our health system.
You rightly want to know how we're going to reach the target that I set out earlier this week of offering a slot for vaccination by 15th of February for everyone in those key groups identified by the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation.
And people are understandably fed up with all the talk of world-beating things from the government that haven't turned out to be world-beating, such as test and trace. But the UK has two huge advantages in this vaccine race. The first is the UK has a regulator-approved, domestically produced vaccine that is logistically easy to distribute. It only needs to be kept at fridge temperature, which makes it far simpler than Pfizer and Moderna in terms of distribution. The second thing is the UK has a public that is very willing to take the vaccine. According to some polling, there is no population in the world that is more willing to take the vaccine. So you don't have, I think one of the things that is constraining the vaccine rollout in France that you were talking about is the level of anti-vax sentiment there, which has slowed things down. So this really does all turn now on whether the British state is capable of rolling this vaccine out at pace.
They're quite optimistic. They've got the army embedded, literally embedded in the NHS. On the top floor of the NHS head office, there are something like 60 uniformed officers under the commander of Brigadier Phil Prosser, who's the commander of 101 Logistics Division.
It is my role to deliver combat supplies to UK forces in time of war. My team are used to complexity and building supply chains at speed in the most arduous and challenging conditions. The military uses 3 steps to plan and deliver complex operations. First, we analyse the situation and the mission. We then identify choices to select the best plan. And then we execute that plan at pace. In this case, the mission is to support the NHS in delivering the maximum amount of vaccine to minimise the number of infections and deaths as quickly and as safely as possible.
They're really optimistic at being able to deliver vaccines as fast as the manufacturers can churn them out. Now, that's quite a big if, because it's not simply a matter of making the vaccines. The Oxford one has to lie for something like 20 days, a sterilisation period, then batches need to get approved by the regulator. So logistically, there's a lot which could go wrong. Also, in our cover piece of the magazine this week, Richard Dobbs points out that you would need a pretty good take-up rate. What happens if 20% of those invited for a vaccine don't actually show up? What happens if the NHS don't have the addresses or the records? You could still end up with quite a lot of people who should be protected not being protected, and that would mean that the virus hospitalisation and death figures don't go down as fast as the ministers are hoping for right now.
Do you think logistically, and I know, the last thing we'll do here is get politically involved with you. But 13.9 has been the target set by mid-February. Looking at your logistics now, availability of stock, and obviously this is going to, as people get used to it, as the network gets even faster. Do you think that's possible?
So we've set ourselves ambitious targets, quite rightly, because it's absolutely the right thing to do here. I think to achieve ambitious targets, you need 3 things. You need a noble purpose, which I'll come back to. You need a really good plan. But as I say, we haven't got a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. So the plan needs to be dynamic. The new strain has placed pressures where we weren't expecting them back in September, October last year. And the final bit you need to deliver ambitious plans is amazing teams. And I think 2 world-class institutions, the NHS and the British military, coming together, give this country the best possible hope of achieving those targets. And I'll just go back to that purpose. This is the beginning, hopefully, of the end. You don't get a better or more noble cause than getting the vaccine out to fight this pandemic. And what I've seen from both my team and the NHS team that we're supporting is that they will throw everything at this, and we'll do whatever it takes to get it out there and achieve those ambitious targets.
Vaccine being rolled out today, how are you feeling?
Well, it was very, very exciting just to talk to Lynn about the vaccine that she's just taken. She's 81, and really very moving to hear her say that she's doing it for Britain, and that's exactly right, because she's protecting herself, but she's also helping to protect the entire country. And across the whole of the UK this morning, that is happening in Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, in England. People are having the vaccine for the first time, and it will gradually make a huge, huge difference.
It is undoubtedly going to be a massive logistical and technical challenge in the weeks and months to come. But with the arrival of the first batch, there's real hope that the end of the pandemic is in sight.
In our line of work, you're not normally squeamish.
One by one, the needles are uncapped, vials drawn, and shots go into arms. While the work here is routine, the setting is anything but.
I've been in the fire and rescue service for 31 years and seen some things, but I never thought I'd see this.
This fire station in southern England has turned into a COVID vaccination center, with firefighters, soldiers, and volunteers giving the shots. Elsewhere, stadiums, racetracks, mosques, and cathedrals are being used as vaccination sites, all coordinated through a nationalized government-run health system that looks remarkably efficient.
Does it feel like a wartime effort?
Absolutely, it feels like a wartime effort.
Into its third national lockdown with one of the highest COVID death rates on Earth, not much about Britain's battle against the coronavirus can be called a success. Yet the UK has now injected more vaccine doses than Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Poland, and Belgium combined.
How is it that the UK got so far ahead in the vaccine race?
What we managed to put together here was the speed of that discovery with the capacity to scale up and the ability to deploy at speed.
I'm overjoyed. This place has stood here for 800 years to give glory to God and to serve the city and the region. And today, what better way could there be of doing that than hosting Salisbury's stage in the vaccination programme?
Marvellous organ music and amazingly nice people. It's just a treat in every way. It's such a lovely place. I happen to be used to it, you know, and I feel I'm among friends, and it's such a relief to get the vaccine, you know, when you see every single night on television the sheer hell that so many people are going through. So I feel very lucky to have it. Piece of cake.
With every jab that goes into our arms, we are tilting the odds against COVID and in favour of the British people.
Now I've got some breaking news to bring you on Sky News this afternoon, in that the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh have received their coronavirus vaccinations, joining, we're told, more than 1 million people now who have been given the jab. Boris Johnson, of course, said yesterday around 1.5 million now.
Well, once you've had the vaccine, you have a feeling of, you know, you're protected, which is, I think, very important. And as far as I can make out, it was quite harmless. It was very quick, and I've had lots of letters from people who've been very surprised by how easy it was to get the vaccine. And the jab was it didn't hurt at all.
You rightly want to know how we're going to reach the target that I set out earlier this week of offering a slot for vaccination by 15th of February for everyone in those key groups identified by the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. Today we have reached a significant milestone in the United Kingdom's national vaccination programme. On the 8th of December, just after 6:30 in the morning, this country's first coronavirus jab was delivered safely into the arms of Margaret Keenan at University Hospital in Coventry. In the following 2 months, this country has achieved an extraordinary feat, administering a total of 15 million jabs into the arms of some of the most vulnerable people in the country. Those vaccines have been delivered in our NHS hospitals, in GP surgeries and high street pharmacies, in cathedrals churches, mosques and temples, in community centres, and in living rooms in cities, towns and villages across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. We've even delivered jabs in a fairground. And they've been delivered by the most extraordinary army of vaccinators who have jabbed like there's no tomorrow. Doctors and nurses, retired healthcare workers who've returned to the fray, and supported by organisers, volunteers, marshals, guided by the leadership of the NHS and supported by the great strategic logistical nous of the British Army. It has been a truly national, UK-wide effort. We've done it together. And I want to thank each and every person who has helped make it happen. You can be incredibly proud of the part you've played. And in England, I can tell you we have now offered jabs to everyone in the first 4 priority groups, the people most likely to be severely ill from coronavirus, hitting the first target that we set ourselves.
It has to be said, the UK did struggle at the start of this pandemic, but is now doing very well when it comes to administering COVID vaccines. What is the latest on all of this?
Hey, Rosemary, so you're not wrong to ask that obvious question. How is it that the UK got so far ahead in the global vaccine race, especially considering this country has taken a lot of criticism on its handling of the pandemic? It was slow to lock down, slow to close its borders, reluctant to strictly enforce its own rules, and not all that successful in tracking and tracing the virus. It's now, though, given more than 15 million first doses of the vaccine and offered it to everyone living or staffing a care home, frontline healthcare workers, and everybody over the age of 70. And the health secretary says that the uptake has been more than 90%. The key to success here seems to be a combination of a smooth national health service rollout of the vaccine, but also some early big bets on then unproven vaccines.
We've still got a long way to go, and there will undoubtedly be bumps in the road. But after all we've achieved, I know we can go forward with great confidence.